What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Best F in Fantasy Show. Glad you're here with us on Week 7 of the NFL season, 2013. I'm your host, Steve Albertini, joined by my producer, sitting across the table from me today, Nick Specca, senior analyst Jerry Procopio in the building. Follow us on Twitter at BestFNShow. Check out the website, bestfnfantasyshow.com. A lot of good stuff in the last week or so on the site. Check it out if you're looking for some additional fantasy insight. The website will definitely provide that for you. Buys this week are the New Orleans Saints and the Oakland Raiders. So all you Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham owners, if you need to scour the waiver wire for any pickups, we are here to help. And we're going to jump right in with the Thursday night special. NFC West matchup, Seattle Seahawks travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. And guys, it's Week 7. I want to ask you a question first. Andre Ellington is a guy who has produced in limited touches this year. Would you say this week now is the time to really get Ellington more involved in the offense?
I would hope so. I mean, he's averaging 30 snaps per game over the last 4 weeks. He's outproducing every running back on that team, and he's averaging like 8 yards a touch.
Yeah.
So he has to be more involved. I mean, he's got the most upside in this offense. If he got 50 snaps a game and touched the ball 20, 25 times, I could actually see him being a week-to-week running back too. But right now he's a flex option. But he needs to be the number one guy in that backfield. They can't give the ball to anybody else because everyone else is ineffective.
And you're right, he's dynamic both in the running game and in the passing game.
He's been averaging 70 yards a week over the last 4 weeks.
His yards per touch significantly higher than the plodding Rashard Mendenhall.
Yep.
Sorry, Jerry.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
He's dead to me now.
It's official.
But on the other side of the ball, look, we kind of know what we're going to get out of Seattle. Marshawn Lynch is going to pound the ball. Russell Wilson's going to take some shots. His biggest weapon, who we haven't seen at all in a Seahawk uniform, is Percy Harvin. Some rumblings out of the Harvin camp last week that Percy's been running. He's ahead of schedule in his rehab. Is this the time where you go out and you pick up Percy Harvin and stash him for a couple weeks down the line?
If you want to, I mean, if you're really like desperate for a receiver or you just want some upside, if you have roster space, yeah, go ahead and do it. But personally, I don't think you're going to get the kind of production you saw out of Percy Harvin the last few seasons, especially in this Seattle Seahawks offense that likes to spread the ball around. I had high expectations for Golden Tate. I thought he was going to be the guy in Percy's absence, but I don't see him doing a whole lot. The thing is, like, he still has a long road to recover. I mean, he still has to get familiar with this offense. But I mean, if you want to stash him, and hopefully, maybe around week 13, 14, he finally starts to come around, and you can start him. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he does. Regardless of all the reports, he still has a good couple weeks before he's even has a shot at playing in a game. But if you have an open spot on your bench, or you have mediocre wide receiver that is just taking up space on your bench, then it's totally worth the speculative pickup. And then maybe come playoff time, you added a dynamic weapon to your receiving core. Dallas travels to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles in a early season first place showdown in the wildly inconsistent NFC East. Eagles with a nice win at Tampa last week with Nick Foles at the helm. Dallas took care of Washington on Sunday night. Probably the biggest news is, from a fantasy perspective, DeMarco Murray looks like he's going to miss the game. Joseph Randle, the rookie, steps in. Jared, what do you think about Randle's production possibilities this week in Philadelphia?
I'm going to temper my expectations with Randle. He really hasn't shown a whole lot. Cowboys training camp, they were saying this guy could be brought in and could be a three-down back. He really hasn't shown any big playability just yet, even in limited action last week. I think that it's going to be a timeshare between Tanner and Randle this week. So temper your expectations. But if you're a Murray owner, you got to grab Randle. He's the immediate backup.
Yeah, he's an immediate handcuff. You got to go grab. Got to grab Randle. We don't know the full extent of Murray's injury. His timetable on his return could only be this week, which is what the early indications are. So stay tuned, and we'll keep you updated when we hear anything. Who has the better game this week, Dez Bryant or Deshaun Jackson?
I'm just going to say Dez Bryant because he's on all my teams. I don't know, but it's going to be close. Both these guys are going to have big games, but I think Dez has the better chance to score multiple touchdowns.
What do you think, Nick?
I think it's got to be Dez, too. I mean, there's no one that can really stop Dez. I know last week against Washington, but that was another division game. It's just, he's due after last week's performance.
Yeah, I think it's a great spot for Dez. Bounce back week. They're going to try and get him the ball a lot.
Yeah.
Awful Eagles pass defense.
Chung's going to stop him.
And even as bad as the Cowboys pass defense has been, Deshaun's going to draw Brandon Carr, and Brandon Carr's actually played pretty well for them in spots this year. So I go Dez slightly, but Deshaun having an absolutely phenomenal season thus far. Speaking of the Bucs, they travel to Atlanta to take on the injury-riddled Falcons. Steven Jackson's still out. No timetable for his return.
No.
We don't even know when he's going to start practicing again.
Nope.
Which is really disappointing because I think a lot of people had really high hopes for Steven Jackson this year.
Third-round pick.
I'll talk about Matt Ryan a little bit later on. That's called foreshadowing. Vincent Jackson. I want to talk about Vincent Jackson. Finally had a big game, his first big game of the season. And it happened to be with Mike Glennon. Mike Williams did not play. Needs to be noted. But Vincent Jackson, is he okay with Mike Glennon? If you're a Vincent Jackson owner, should you be confident that he's going to keep up that wide receiver one production that you're used to from the previous seasons?
I think so. They use this bye week to pretty much, build their chemistry and everything, and I do like his chances going forward. Glennon actually has a good arm. He threw the ball to him 10 times last week, and I see him being the guy that we know.
Yeah, and he the game prior to the bye week, he saw double-digit targets also.
Yeah.
They just, that for whatever reason, they weren't in sync. But I agree. I think Vincent Jackson will be okay. I think Mike Glennon's going to make it a point to get him the ball. Mm-hmm. And they haven't been able to run the ball, unfortunately, all season.
Yeah.
So Vincent Jackson will get opportunities. Cincinnati coming off a nail-biting victory in Buffalo. Thank you very much, Mike Nugent. Traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. And I want to ask, plain and simple, what's up with Calvin Johnson? Is it just this injury, or is there something more here? Because we haven't seen elite production out of Calvin Johnson so far this season.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's kind of like last year all over again. Remember the first half of the year, he was like, he'd have like one good game, and then it'd be a couple games in a row, he'd be like mediocre.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This knee injury seems to be something that's lingering. I don't think they're really talking about it too much. But they're going to use him. I think they're going to use him more as a decoy. Chris Durham actually led the team in targets last week. So, you just got to hope for the best. You're not going to bench Calvin Johnson.
I don't think you should bench him or trade him. I would just keep Calvin. Just like Jerry said last year, he was on a little rough patch.
Yeah.
And he ended up finishing with great numbers. So, especially in PPR, I think he must start every week, no matter what.
Yeah, if you could actually buy Calvin low right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you might be able to. And if you can, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Calvin Johnson's Calvin Johnson.
He's still the best receiver in the league, no matter what the stats are.
Absolutely. And when he's healthy, he's great.
Yeah.
He played a situational role last week, but it was by design. He's still dealing with the lingering effects of his injury. Stay patient with Calvin Johnson. It's also not a great matchup this week against Cincinnati. They have a stout defense.
Yeah.
They have good corners. So temper your expectations with Calvin, but don't jump ship. He'll be fine. That being said, this week, in a battle of two of the brightest young wide receivers in the NFL, who has more fantasy points this week, Calvin Johnson or A.J. Green?
I'm going to say A.J. Green because Detroit gives up the 8th most points to opposing receivers. He got in the end zone last week. I see him doing it again this week.
I'm going to go against Jared. I think Calvin, he's just due.
It's tough.
I feel like these last 2 weeks have been bad. I think he's going to come out this week, especially against a good defense. He has to show that he's still the best.
I'll break the tie. I'll go A.J. Green just because I think Calvin Johnson will still be slightly limited. I think A.J. Green has a little bit better matchup. And no disrespect to Calvin Johnson, I did say he hasn't given us elite production this year. Week 2, he did have 116 yards, 2 touchdowns in Arizona. He followed that up with 115 yards and a touchdown against Washington. So, inconsistent is I guess the proper term. Buffalo travels to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Buffalo just brought in the immortal Matt Flynn to compete for the quarterback position, which I'm sure he'll undoubtedly lose to a rookie. Thaddeus Lewis played pretty well last week in relief.
He did.
But to no avail, unfortunately, for Buffalo. Who has more points this week? Fred Jackson C.J. Spiller or Lamar Miller?
It's really tough. I'm gonna go Fred Jackson, just because he's the best bet to actually get a touchdown.
I agree with that.
That's right. That's why I'm gonna say that.
The thing is with Fred too, he gets a lot of receptions, and even though C.J. Spiller is the best running back in that team, for some reason, I guess due to his injury, they're just more focused on Fred Jackson right now.
Yeah, right. Fred Jackson he's just has more opportunities. It's plain and simple.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it.
I mean, he's in on every passing down.
Yeah.
They don't even attempt to throw C.J. Spiller a screen or a little dump off.
They should. He'd be great in space.
He would. But yeah, Fred Jackson's the guy. I'm actually benching C.J. Spiller this week for the first time this year, my first round pick. Thanks a lot, Doug Marrone.
Thanks a lot, Doug Martin. It's the same thing.
New England travels to the Meadowlands to take on the Jets in a rematch from Week 2. Tom Brady was Tom Brady last week.
Beautiful.
Pulling off the walk-off touchdown.
Unbelievable.
To Kembrell Tompkins. Really incredible ending to that game last week. Rob Gronkowski, he's been in the news for weeks now. Still questionable going into this week.
Yeah, he's still not cleared by his doctor, and they said it might be another 2 weeks. But, I mean, who knows?
When's the bye? The bye after this game?
No, their bye's like week 11, I believe.
Oh, is it?
This doctor's not even like an arm specialist. He's like
He's a
knee specialist. So
Yeah.
I don't understand what's going on
The
here.
world-renowned Dr. James Andrews, who's worked on probably half the knees in the National Football League.
Worked on my knee. No, I'm just playing.
We did. We flew Jerry down to Tuscaloosa. And question, you may think I'm crazy here, but with his lack of production in the last couple weeks, is this a week where you bench Tom Brady, assuming you have a viable option behind him?
If you have a better option on your bench, I would.
But what's like a middling quarterback QB2 that has
here.
a good matchup that you might start over? I would start.
All right.
We're going to talk about him next. I would start Jay Cutler over Tom Brady.
Oh, really?
Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. That's all right. I would start Jay Cutler. I would start Nick Foles over Brady this week. I know that's crazy, but look what Foles did last week. Look at the matchup they got home against Dallas.
I
I
can't disagree with you. I can't.
Dallas gives up the most points to opposing quarterbacks, but I mean, like, Tom Brady's Tom Brady. I mean, you're going to get production out of him. It's just not going to be as good as it was before.
Speaking of Jay Cutler, he travels to the nation's capital to take on RG3 and the Redskins. Who has more points this week, Jay Cutler or RG3?
I got to go Jay Cutler. This team is really coming together. I'm going to say right now, I mean, it's a shame Julio got hurt, but this is the best receiving duo in the league and for years to come.
Well, that's a bold statement.
I know it's a bold statement. I right now,
some guys in Denver might dispute you on that.
Well, I mean, they do have Peyton Manning, which fuels their production a little bit. I think these guys are.
You're saying Decker's not that good?
I think Alshon Jeffrey is a better player than Decker.
Interesting.
It's good.
Interesting.
So,
everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so.
I think you're really on the Jeffrey train, big time
A little
right
bit.
now.
A little bit.
Putting him in that.
You think
that
Brandon
category.
Marshall being on that team helps Alshon Jeffrey a little bit?
Well, last week it didn't. I mean, Jeffries didn't do anything last
Yeah,
week.
because they made a point to get the ball to Brandon Marshall.
Yeah,
Mental health move.
that's true. That's why. Did you see him hand out those ties?
Yeah, at the end of the game. That's
Yeah.
funny.
He was rocking the
Guess what? I was
neon
there.
cleats.
I was there.
Yeah, you and Dion had dinner after the game.
Yeah.
No, about the Bears, they actually have in my opinion, a really shady good offense.
Yeah.
They got two playmaking wide receivers.
Yep.
They got a dynamic running back who can do it on the ground and through the air.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Cutler, I think, is playing his best ball since he's been in Chicago. And they've solidified the offensive line, which has been the Achilles heel of this team for years.
Yeah, true.
Chicago is a...
Their offense is better than their defense this year.
yeah, how crazy is that?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's how much the tables have turned in Chicago this year. St. Louis travels to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Who has more points this week, Sam Bradford or Cam Newton?
Gotta go Cam Newton. He's been hot lately. I mean, I know his production's been up and down this year. Sam Bradford really hasn't lived up to the hype.
Well, I'll tell you what though, Sam Bradford, although he might not have the yards, his touchdowns to interception ratio is pretty nice. I think last week he had 3 touchdowns?
He did.
Through like 178 yards.
He did, but we want the upside.
The upside on Cam Newton's either hit or miss. Though, that's the problem.
I'd rather go Cam.
And you saw what St. Louis defense did to Houston last week.
That's Houston.
Wow.
A team that set a record for pick sixes. I mean, okay, it wasn't Matt Schaub this time. So
We'll get to that.
We're not there yet.
We'll get to that. Who has more rushing yards this week, Zach Stacy or D'Angelo Williams?
I got to go D'Angelo Williams because St. Louis gives up the second most production to opposing backs. Last week, he had over 100 yards total, rushing and receiving. So, I got to go D'Angelo.
You have to find the end zone.
I think he will this week.
San Diego faces off against Jacksonville this week. San Diego coming off a big win on Monday Night Football against the Andrew Luck and the Colts. Jacksonville played pretty well, all things considered, against Peyton Manning and the Broncos last week, ultimately losing 35-19, but they covered that 28-point spread.
They did. Preach.
Who has more receiving yards this week in a matchup of two guys who have been excellent the last 2 weeks? Keenan Allen or Justin Blackmon?
I'm going to go Justin Blackmon. San Diego does still spread the ball around a little bit, even though Keenan Allen's got the most looks. On the other side of the ball, who else are they going to throw to now? Shorts is out.
Yeah.
He may be out for a little while.
Yeah, he's going to be out a while. I mean, Blackmon is like their only option to throw to. He's going to get like 15 looks at least.
Yeah. Really kicking myself for not trading for Justin Blackmon 3-4 weeks ago when I had the chance. I think Justin Blackmon's a top 10 or 12 receiver the rest of the way.
Especially in PPR.
Especially the fact that they're always going to be playing from behind. He's the garbage man. We said it last week.
San Francisco travels to Tennessee to take on the Titans in the Delaney Walker Bowl. Who has more yards this week, Frank Gore or Chris Johnson? Both pretty stout defenses.
I'm going to say Chris Johnson has more total yards, not rushing yards.
Okay.
Because like he might get 15 carries for 10 yards, but he'll get like 2 catches for like 60. Maybe a touchdown. Maybe breaks one through the air.
I'm going to go Frank Gore simply because Chris Johnson doesn't exist to me. I don't even know who he is.
I'm going to go with Steve on this one. I don't even believe Chris Johnson's in the NFL anymore. Frank the Tank all the way.
The Cleveland Browns travel to Lambeau to take on the Packers. The big news out of Lambeau this past week was Randall Cobb's injury. He's out 6 to 8 weeks, which is pretty much the remainder of the fantasy regular season. Who out of that offense will be the biggest beneficiary going forward?
That's tough. I mean, Jordy Nelson's the guy, the number one receiver. I mean, you're going to start James Jones, but I think it benefits Jermichael Finley a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He really hasn't stood out since like 09. He really hasn't had like consistency since 09. Right before that ACL injury.
Yeah.
So we did have him, and it's a shame we could have won that year.
Remember we in San Francisco when that happened?
When it had man and Jerry cried in the hotel room.
I remember that. I remember watching that. You were playing Washington.
Yeah.
That's it.
Towards ACL in the end zone.
Yeah, so I'm going to say Jermichael Finley benefits the most. All right.
I agree with you on Jermichael Finley. I also think that they're going to make concerted effort to get Eddie Lacy the ball a lot. He's ran the ball really well the last couple weeks. 120 yards on the ground in Baltimore last week. He had 99 the week before. I think they're going to make just a real concerted effort to give him the ball. And because outside of, look, James Jones is hobbled a little bit. He got hurt last week, but there are some rumblings that he could be okay to play this week. Jordy Nelson is Jordy Nelson. Jermichael Finley will definitely see an uptick in production.
Yep.
But I think Eddie Lacy is going to be a really nice play going forward.
On the other side of that, talking about the Browns, what's going on with Jordan Cameron? Is he slipping? Is he fading a little bit? Or is
I'm scared as a Jordan Cameron owner.
I'm scared too.
I know.
Good.
No, my next question was going to be who has more yards this week, Finley or Cameron? And I'm going to go Finley because I tend to lean towards the guy who has the better quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers compared to Brandon Weeden is like.
Right.
I think that with all these tight ends you're looking at where, Gates came out hot, he kind of faded. Vernon Davis came out hot, he faded, then he came back. I think with all these tight ends, it's like really just honestly hit or miss with all of them, except Jimmy Graham, who then again put up a donut last week. So I think tight ends this year, everyone says there's a lot of them, but it's just tough to find a solid one.
I think Jimmy Graham is in another stratosphere, and I think Julius Thomas is right behind him.
I think because defenses are starting to key on him a little more. I mean, there's no doubt he's got the talent to be a top 3, top 5 tight end in this league. But the thing is, defenses are keying on him more. His production's slipping a little bit. But, he's still getting targets. Brian Hoyer being out kind of affects him a little bit. But He's still a tight end 1 in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. He's still a tight end 1. Like, you're not going to start guys like Brandon Myers or Brent Selleck or people like that over him. Like, you're still, if you have Cameron, you're going to start him unless you drafted him to be a backup for Jimmy Graham or somebody. But,
right. He'll come around.
I don't know. If somebody came at me with a nice offer for Jordan Cameron, I would trade Jordan Cameron. Just saying. The Texans travel to the 6-0 Chiefs at Arrowhead this week. Big news out of Houston. Matt Schaub out. Much to the delight of all the Houston fans that cheered his injury last week. I'm just really happy that didn't happen in Philadelphia because that would be front page news all over ESPN. TJ Yates is in, and TJ Yates immediately threw a pick 6 as soon as he stepped in.
Yep.
But all that aside, question for this week. Who has more fantasy points this week, Arian Foster or Jamal Charles?
Well, both defenses are pretty stout, but...
Is Foster back, Jer? Is he back? 141 yards just?
I don't know. It's a tough matchup. But you know what? I'm going to go Foster. Not just because, he's my boy or anything, but I just think rushing and receiving, he's the most dynamic. He catches the ball better than Ben Tate. So I think he's going to be the only weapon they're going to use. Going to be able to use because TJ Yates playing there. It's a tough stadium to play in. I think he's going to get a lot of screen passes.
I gotta go Jamal Charles. This whole year, he hasn't had one bad game. I don't think. Not
scored every week.
I know.
He does score every week.
Andy Reid makes it a point. If he's not rushing the ball well, which does happen from week to week, they give him the receptions.
Mm-hmm.
He's a weapon. He's healthy. I also own one of my leagues. That's why. But still, I think he's the best back this year right now.
I agree. I think Jamal Charles is the best fantasy running back in football this year. He does it all. These are his point totals in a PPR league. These are his point totals. 17, 22, 27, 21, 21, and 27.
Yeah, Andy Reid makes it a point to get him the ball.
That's fantastic production. And until he has a bad game, I'm going to ride with him. But I do think Foster's a really strong play this week, just because I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball through the air. Baltimore renews their rivalry with Pittsburgh this week. Who has the better game fantasy-wise, Torrey Smith or Antonio Brown?
I'm going to say Antonio Brown. Baltimore's secondary is very beatable, and they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. And they're still trying to get their running game together. So I think it's going to be passing.
Torrey Smith's like I always say, that big numbers or just dud every week, and I can't have that on my team. I need something consistently. I think Antonio Brown, he gets the looks. Big Ben loves him. It's got to be him.
Yeah, I'm going Torrey Smith. Last week was the only game all season where he didn't have at least 85 receiving yards. He's their only consistent option all season.
Jacoby Jones came back too last week. I think he scored.
He did.
Yeah,
but Jacoby Jones, put aside his kick returns and his bomb touchdown in the playoffs last year, Jacoby Jones has never made an imprint in fantasy football in all his years in the NFL. Torrey Smith is a really good play all year, and I'll ride with Torrey Smith this week. In the Peyton Manning homecoming game, Denver travels to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Just kind of in general, what are your expectations for this game? You see Manning just going crazy and trying to prove all the Colts guys who let him go wrong, or do you see Andrew Luck working a little of that Andrew Luck magic and pulling off the big upset here? What do you guys think?
You got to bench Manning this week.
I don't know. For some reason, games like this, I think that Manning could actually have an upset because he's going back to his old team.
A lot of emotion.
Yeah, a lot of emotion. They don't want him to win. A lot of, Indy's the underdog by far. So it's I don't know. But, you can't assume something like that. So I just say Payton's going to come in, do what he does as usual. Over 300 yards, 3-4 touchdowns.
I think last week what you saw too is where Denver shocked everyone when they started running the ball a lot. Sean Marino had 3 touchdowns. Peyton Manning had an okay game for the first time all year.
295 yards, 2 touchdowns,
and then
interception.
And a pick, right? So I just think this week he's going to bounce back and just go over. The Colts, I don't know. After Monday night too, they did not look that good, the Colts.
I think this is the ultimate chip on your shoulder
Yeah,
game.
this is angry.
I mean, this is a guy that was the franchise for over a decade, put this team on the map, for the first time since Johnny Unitas.
Right.
I think Manning goes off. But I do agree, though. I don't think Denver runs away with the game. I think you've seen it enough where Andrew Luck beats the Packers last year as a big underdog. They beat the Seahawks a couple weeks ago as an underdog. At home, for some reason, with Luck and Pagano, and they have that mojo going. They'll lose games where we think, oh, how the hell could they lose that game?
Right.
And then they'll win games, and you're just like, oh, that's the Luck magic right there.
Right.
Build into his legend.
I just feel like the Colts are trying to run the ball. Like they're trying to force Trent, and it's just not. They're not getting that run game that they're looking for.
You're right.
And it's hurting Luck a lot.
John Gruden brought it up during the broadcast last night. Like, I know they're a power running team, and they're going to emphasize running the football, but they're at their best when Andrew Luck's just at the helm, just calling plays and slinging it to T.Y. Hilton and Reggie Wayne.
I mean, look at last year what Reggie Wayne was doing. That's because they gave up on the run, and they were just letting Luck go. And now it's being more conservative, running, and then pass on third down. It's not, it's just not working.
Should be a really entertaining game Sunday night. Can't wait to watch that. And on the Monday night game, with a combined record of 1-11 or 1-10, whatever it is, 1 and a lot, Minnesota travels to New York, New Jersey, Meadowlands to take on the Giants. Adrian Peterson played with a heavy heart last week.
Yeah.
They just got blown out of the water by Carolina. Do you see a bounce back week this week for Adrian Peterson?
Yeah, I think so. The Giants give up a lot of points to the running backs. I think he has to have a bounce back game. He's the only guy that they have. I mean, especially the fact that Freeman actually might get a start. So who knows?
Brandon Jacobs really turned back the clock last Thursday night.
Yeah,
over 100 yards, got in the end zone. Can he do it again this week against Minnesota?
Yes, he can. Because Minnesota gives up the most points to opposing running backs. So, I mean, I don't know about another 100 yards. If they're down in the red zone, he's going to score.
Is this another bounce back for Victor Cruz, Hakeem Nicks, Eli Manning? Is this a good matchup for them? Or
it should be. Minnesota's defense is pretty bad. It's going to be, I don't know about a high-scoring game, but the Giants are going to put points on the board. So, one of those guys is going to get it done.
I agree. I think the Giants win the game. I think
they'll get their first one.
They put up some points. Awesome stuff. We'll be right back with our Legends and Jerkoffs for Week 7. Welcome back, everyone, to Week 7 of the Best F in Fantasy Show, 2013 season. I'm your host, Steve Albertini. It's time for the Legends and Jerkoffs segment. But first, a couple housekeeping notes. Follow us on Twitter at BestFNShow, and make sure you check out the website, bestfnfantasyshow.com. Best information in the biz. Jer, kick it off. Give me your legends for this week.
All right, my first one, Dez Bryant, coming off a bad game. Playing Philadelphia, gives up a lot of points to opposing receivers. Big bounce-back game. All right, my next one, D'Angelo Williams. St. Louis gives up the second most points to opposing running backs. Last week he had 100 yards, combined rushing and receiving. So I see him getting it done this week. And my last one, Alshon Jeffrey, again coming off a bad week. Should have a bounce-back game against Washington.
I'm going to make a cameo appearance here in this segment. Keenan Allen, a first legend this week. I know I said Justin Blackman was the better play, but Keenan Allen over 100 yards the last 2 weeks, had a team-high 12 targets on Monday Night Football against the Colts. He's a strong play. I'm going to keep rolling with Keenan Allen. Talked about it a little bit earlier. Torrey Smith, bounce-back game for Torrey Smith. He's hurt the Steelers before. Last week was his only game this season in which he didn't eclipse at least 85 receiving yards. I think he gets back on track in Pittsburgh this week. And we talked about him a little earlier, Jermichael Finley. Joe Hayden, shutdown cornerback, is going to be on Jordy Nelson. James Jones, if he plays, he's going to be hobbled a little bit. Jermichael Finley could be in line for a lot of targets this week. Jared, who are your jerk-offs for Week 7?
I think we call him a jerk-off every single week, but I'm going to go Chris Johnson.
Might rename the segment after Chris Johnson.
Yeah. Playing San Francisco, what's he going to do? Really? What is he going to do? My next one, I think we call this guy a jerk-off too every week, too. Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh my god.
I think so.
Richard Sherman, Brandon Browner. Not going to do it. And my next one,
He might do it.
he's been on fire the last few weeks, but Indianapolis gives up the 4th fewest points to opposing tight ends.
Ooh,
I'm going to go Julius Thomas has an off week this week.
interesting. All right, I'm gonna kick it off with Andre Johnson. He's been excellent in PPR like he always is, but he can't find his way into the end zone. No touchdowns this year, and I think that's going to continue this week with T.J. Yates replacing the injured Matt Schaub. Second, I got Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan had a great year last year. A lot of hype coming into this season. He lost his best wide receiver for the season. He lost his second best receiver pretty much all year with a lingering hamstring issue and actually a multitude of injuries. And his star running back / big-time free agent acquisition in the offseason, Steven Jackson, just can't get on the field. We don't know when he's going to practice. I don't like Matt Ryan this week or going forward. And Tom Brady. Jets are stout on defense. Still no Gronk. Still no Amendola. Tom Brady's stat line against the Jets in Week 2. 48.7 completion percentage, 185 yards, and only 1 touchdown. Staying away from Brady this week if you have better options. It's time for everyone's favorite segment, our bread and butter, the Who the F is That Sleeper of the Week. And this week's Who the F is That Sleeper segment is sponsored by the secret menu from Starbucks. Not satisfied with the menu? Ask your local barista about the secret menu and enjoy endless caffeinated delicacies. Visit StarbucksSecretMenu.com today for more details. Jer, give the people what they want.
All right, I got 5 this week since Karma's not here. So, my first one, I'm going to go Andrew Quarles. With all the injuries to the Packers receiving core, they're saying Jermichael Finley's going to be playing more at wideout. Andrew Quarles is going to get a lot of reps.
Nice.
My next one doesn't look like Roddy White's going to play. So I'm going to go Drew Davis. He opened up the year as their 3rd receiver. He may be promoted to the starting lineup. He's going to get a lot of looks, hopefully, in this game. And my next one, he's not really a sleeper. He's been very consistent, but he's a free agent in 74% of leagues. Right, Peter? Right. Brandon Gibson.
Peter gave us a thumbs up from
he
the
did.
back room.
He did. Brandon Gibson, he's averaging 5 catches for 60 yards a game, and he's getting 8-9 looks a game. So, I mean, like, he's a guy that's, like, flying under the radar. If you need a flex play, why not pick him up? My next one, Cecil Shorts is out. I'm going to go Mike Brown. He's going to be getting some garbage time. He got 4 catches for 50 yards last week, playing 3 quarters. So, I mean,
We love garbage time.
yep. He might if you're in a deep league, why not? And my last one, this is for Carmen. I'm going to go Cole Beasley. You see what happens with third receivers against the Eagles. There's going to be a lot of points in this game. Cole Beasley got 7 looks last week, led the team in yards last week. So, why not? Cole Beasley.
It's actually a good one considering Miles Austin
Yeah, Miles Austin can't stay healthy.
can't stay healthy.
Yep.
I'm going to go with a pair of tight ends here. First one being Zach Ertz. He's not a total unknown, but he has yet to really make his mark on the league as a second-round pick out of Stanford. He's been getting more involved in the offense as of late. He played 42 snaps last week, only a handful less than Brent Selleck. He's actually listed as the co-starter with Brent Selleck now. They've been running a lot of 2 tight end sets. So I think maybe in a potentially high-scoring matchup with the Cowboys, Zach Ertz might be able to get his first touchdown this week. And Timothy Wright from Tampa Bay, 7 catches for 91 yards last week with the absence of Mike Williams. Keep an eye on Mike Williams' status this week, but he's been getting more involved in the offense and could potentially score a touchdown in Atlanta this week. It's time for our questions, where our producer Nick Specca takes all your questions from Twitter. As always, follow us at BestEffInShow. Submit any sit-start questions, lineup questions, whatever you got. Life questions. I'm sure Jerry will counsel you. Nick, give us the first question.
Our first question comes from our boy Hank. He wants to know if you think Halou, Stewart are good pickups, or would you pick up Andre Brown or Vereen? It's a non-PPR league.
You got to go Vereen. He's coming back after the bye. It's 4 weeks away. Look what he did week 1. He outperformed every running back on that team, and the Patriots loved what they saw from him in the preseason. They wanted to use him as like that Joker type player. It's got to be Vereen. He's going to get it done, running, receiving, whatever.
I agree. Shane Vereen. Royal Lou is only in passing situations and will only have value if Alfred Morris goes down, regardless of how good he's looked this year. Jonathan Stewart has been dead to me for a long time. It's Shane Vereen.
I like Andre Brown. I think once he gets back healthy, he's going to be a starting running back for the Giants.
Well, when's that going to be?
Pretty soon. He's running.
He's running.
He's running. He tweeted it. I retweeted it. I'm running. Our next question comes from at You Got Ari. He wants to know, is Nick Foles worth a roster spot this week, especially with my starting quarterback on a bye?
Not only is he worth a roster spot, Nick Foles or whoever's piloting the Eagles' offense, I think is worth a start, depending on who your other quarterback is. They're going to put up points. They've scored over 30 points 4 times this season. Nick Foles, I think, is a really nice play this week against the Dallas.
Yeah, he also wants to know, is he good for the long haul, too? Is he worth that kind of pickup right now?
It still depends what the Eagles want to do. I mean, if Nick Foles keeps playing this well, it'd be tough for them to just rush Vic back. But that's for the Eagles.
That's for Chip to decide.
Yeah.
But as long as Foles is in, Foles is a must-add.
Well, Foles is definitely starting this week. I mean, Vic was with the third strings, they said.
Foles is a Vic even said it today. He said he needs at least another week to rehab before he even starts testing it. Nick Foles is going to be the guy this week, and they're going to put up points against that Dallas defense.
Our next question comes from @Titio. He wants to know Lamar Miller, Andre Ellington, or Jacquizz Rodgers. Or do I start all 3 of them and bench Michael Floyd?
That's
an
tough.
Interesting question.
I think Andre Ellington's the must start of that. Michael Floyd's been hit or miss. Yeah, I would bench Floyd. He's just been too hit or miss. They have a tough matchup this week.
So tell him to start all 3 and bench Michael Floyd.
Yeah.
If he has to.
Yeah. Our next question comes from one of our favorites, C-Chop Lamb 1. He wants to know Eli Manning or Russell Wilson.
I think Eli Manning has the better matchup, even though he's been really bad fantasy-wise. I like Eli this week.
I like Eli too. That Arizona defense is pretty good. I mean, they have some playmakers on that side of the ball.
I always think it's interesting to have that Monday night option. Just throwing it out there.
Mr. Monday Night, you would.
That's all the questions we have this week. I'm going to send it back to Steve.
All right, Nick. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for your questions. Good luck this week. If you have any questions or concerns, hit us up on Twitter @BestEffinShow. Make sure you check out the website for all the rankings and podcasts this week, as well as some other cool stuff we'll be posting in the coming days. Good luck in Week 7. We'll see you next week.